Well, good afternoon, everybody. I was asked to kind of focus on the differences in offering mixed-use housing in urban and suburban settings. So it occurred to me, we probably should have asked, and I didn't think to ask you this, how many of you guys are working in supportive housing in urban settings? Okay, suburban? A lot fewer, okay. Our agency, just to give you some background, our agency is Concerned for Independent Living, and we're located out in Suffolk County, our main office, and we did housing in Suffolk County for years and years and years and years. All the different alphabets that you were just given, scattered site housing, congregate housing, OMH housing, licensed, unlicensed, all of that. And then we began offering housing. We made the leap into Brooklyn. We cleared right over Nassau County and made the leap into Brooklyn. And we currently are operating 3 properties in Brooklyn. We are now operating housing programs in Nassau County, and we're developing programs in the Bronx and additional programs in Suffolk County on Long Island. I guess my perspective that I bring to this is to really look at what were the things that surprised us coming into the city to work, what are the things that are the same, and what's a little bit different. I will tell you that I really think you can make a strong argument that what many of us have done for years in terms of offering scattered site supportive housing in the community really is mixed-use housing, right? I mean, when you have apartments, when you're renting 15 apartments in an apartment complex in Suffolk County, that's mixed-use housing. And, you know, your point was so well made that all of us live in mixed-use housing in any case, mixed population housing. So what I've done here is I've given you some pictures to look at while I talk, and hopefully that will help you stay awake while I talk. You'll see these are all photographs of sites that Concern operates, and you'll see that I have mixed in some of our scattered site housing on Long Island in with the larger buildings that we're operating in New York City. That's Suffolk County. See all the green? You see the green? But that's to give you just an idea while I'm talking of sort of what it is that we're doing. Our agency is both a housing provider, a social services provider, a developer. We wear all the hats that many of you guys wear. My experience, you know, like I said, it has been primarily on Long Island, and so I'm curious to hear from you later if my experiences sort of match the experiences that you guys have had, especially some of you who are working in suburban areas. So when we look at operating and developing housing, you have to look at some of the challenges, you have to look at some of the things that are similar and some that are different. Many of them, probably most of them, are going to be extremely familiar to you. In developing housing, one of the first things we all hear is the whole NIMBY piece, right? We're all very familiar with that. I think one of the things that we've done that has helped us be successful is to really try to win over the community by engaging them early. You know, in New York City, if you have city funding, we all know there's a process around that and how you need to bring the community board in and work with them. We don't happen to have city funding, but we do all those things anyway because it's the right thing to do. It's the first step in being a good neighbor. If we're working in a community on Long Island, we're meeting with the Civic Association. We're meeting with community groups that outreach to us and asking them, you know, what are your concerns, what are your needs? Very often, if you bring people in early enough, you can incorporate their interests and their concerns for the development in what you do, which makes them your partner in what you do and is extremely successful. You know, we had a property that we developed in Brooklyn, and when we met with the community board, they really wanted us to increase the number of units that would be available to community tenants, and we were able to do that. It wasn't a huge increase, but it was what we could do. And I think it fostered a sense of trust and cooperation between us. We really try to actively address the concerns of the community. I found those concerns to be a little bit different in urban and suburban settings. In suburban settings, it's property values, right? What are you going to do, whether it should be or not? People's concerns are, what is this building going to do to what my house is worth? In the city, I think I've found something that's maybe even a little bit deeper than money, if you can imagine that. It's that sense of, we have worked so hard to battle back our community, and we're so afraid that what you're doing may whittle away at the success we've already achieved. And so, they're both concerns that really matter to folks, but I think it plays a little differently, and the way you have to respond to it is different as a result. One of the things that you have to do in every community is help them believe that the residents that you're going to be serving are already there. When we first met with the community board in Brooklyn, I think they really thought that we were bringing in people from Suffolk County to Brooklyn to get services. And lots of times when we've met with communities in Suffolk County or in Nassau County, they have just assumed that we're bussing people out from the city. So, helping people understand that these people are already in your community, they already are a part of your community, is really important. Emphasizing jobs for the community. This is probably a bigger deal in the city when you're dealing with the local community board, though we do talk about it with all of the different communities that we work with. Lots of times we've gotten the question from community boards, will you give a preference in hiring or in housing for people in the community board? And what we tell them is we want to work with local people, and so we'll do everything we can to do that. If, all other things being equal, if somebody lives close by in the community, they make a great employee, because we know what it's like to run 24-hour housing. You want somebody who can get there quickly, so we're happy to do that. We also, and this has been really helpful for us in both kinds of settings, we volunteer use of our community space. On Long Island, we have a building out in Riverhead that has hosted tons of meetings for the community. The former director of that building is in the back, and she was great at integrating with the community and bringing folks in so that they could use the space. The director of one of our residences in Brooklyn is also in the back, and she's been terrific about bringing in the community boards and different community groups so that they can use the space. In terms of operations and everything that goes with that, I think that a lot of it is very, very similar between the two. You really do have to look at developing a program that works in the area where you're going to be offering it. The configuration of the building, what the entrance looks like, the outdoor space, all of that is very important. The distribution of units within the project. Some projects, I've been in some where you go up in the elevator, and when you come out of the elevator, if you turn left, it's all community tenants, and if you turn right, it's all supportive or special needs tenants. We tend to choose to mix ours, and the sense of community, I think, really extends, because you really don't have a sense of who's who in the building. We really have tried to employ all of our residents if we can, so we employ some of our special needs residents as peers in our programs. Some of the people who live in our buildings work in our other buildings. So anything you can do that helps people feel integrated, I think, really strengthens the program. The service provision in urban and suburban settings is largely the same, right? People have the same sorts of needs. It's just against a different backdrop. So on Long Island, we may have people who are experiencing substance abuse issues or other things that are a challenge to them, both community tenants and supportive or special needs tenants. In Brooklyn, you may have that as well. How we treat it, the resources that are available to us to work with that, how we can mobilize the community to work with that are sometimes a little bit different. For example, in working with folks in New York City, we see much higher incarceration rates in the folks that we're serving, and so they have some different challenges, but the overall service provision is very similar. I think Jonathan was sharing some of the positive things that are a part of what's inherent with these kinds of programs. I think we've found many of the same kinds of things. It's very normalizing, whatever normal is in that community. So on Long Island, you may have communities where neighbors are very close to each other and there's a lot of interaction, and we sometimes see that, and our residents participate in that. Sometimes they're very separate, and in the city, you know, sometimes it's very separate. We have had, unfortunately, a couple of more serious situations that have developed in our buildings that are mixed use, and I find that residents who are community tenants just go on up to their apartments. You know, I don't think they find that they see something they haven't seen before. You know, as you were saying, you know, most of our folks, anybody living in our buildings has lived near somebody who's been challenged in the past. I think, too, one of the real positive impacts in both settings is just the increased education, the dilution of stigma that happens through these mixed models. There's nothing that says anymore, this is a building for people who, whatever, fill in the blank. It's more just, this is a building where families can live. This is a building where, you know, kids come and go from school. This is a program where singles live, where, you know, every kind of person is welcome. That can't do anything but positively affect self-image. And, you know, that whole piece about feeling proud of where you live. You were talking about dressing up or down to your environment. Our agency believes really strongly that people respond to their environment, that people have a way of rising or falling to their environment. I think all of us do that. And so as best we can, and hopefully you see this in these pictures, as best we can, we try to offer housing that folks can feel helps elevate them, gives them dignity, gives them something to be proud of, gives them a place where they can feel comfortable having a family member or a friend or someone else come to visit them. And so that's really the heart of what I have to say. I think that, you know, one last confession. I had a lot of concerns when our agency first started talking about developing mixed population housing. I was really worried about all the sort of undisclosed special needs of the community tenants, and that would be a drain on staff time and energy. I was worried about how people would react. I was worried that we wouldn't be able to rent up those community units once we told folks that it was sort of a mixed population building. And I'm really happy to be able to stand here and say to you, none of those things happened. You know, I love to be wrong when it's in the service of something good, and I was really wrong. You know, we went ahead on faith, but now, you know, having done this, I feel like we can go ahead, you know, with a lot more confidence, because great things are happening as a result of this model. It's getting done, or maybe it got started getting done because of financial concerns and because of, you know, a push from Albany or any of a number of other reasons. But I think the reason it's going to continue to be successful, and the reason why it's going to continue to happen, is because it's something we can all feel good about and know that we're doing something helpful. So thank you.